My beloved brothers and sisters, life will test you in ways you never imagined. There will be moments when people misunderstand you, accuse you, hurt you, and even try to break you without any valid reason. In those moments, your heart will scream for a response. Your mind will push you to defend yourself, to prove your innocence, to say something back. But sometimes the strongest thing you can do is remain silent and let Allah handle it. Silence is not weakness. Silence is power. It takes great strength to control your tongue when emotions are running high. Anyone can react, anyone can shout, anyone can respond with anger. But not everyone can pause, reflect, and choose silence for the sake of Allah. That is where true Iman, faith lies. When you stay silent, you are not ignoring the zalim done to you. You are simply handing it over to the one who sees everything. Allah knows what they said. Allah knows what they did. And most importantly, Allah knows what you felt in your heart when no one else understood. You really think the one who is Al-Adl, the most just, will let injustice go unanswered? You really think the one who is Al-Adl, the most just, will let injustice go unanswered? Sometimes we waste our energy trying to explain ourselves to people who have already decided not to understand us. We argue, we defend, we go back and forth, and in the end we are left exhausted. But what did we gain? Nothing but stress and regret. Instead, imagine the peace of walking away, knowing that Allah will take care of what you cannot. Patience is not easy. Sabr is not just about waiting. It is about controlling yourself while you wait. It is about holding your tongue when you want to speak, holding your anger when you want to explode, and holding your tears when your heart feels heavy. And every moment you do that for the sake of Allah, it is being recorded. Not a single second of your patience is wasted. There is something beautiful about trusting Allah's plan. You may not see the outcome immediately. You may feel like nothing is changing. But behind the scenes, Allah is working in ways you cannot imagine. He is protecting you. He is preparing something better for you. And He is dealing with those who hurt you in His own perfect way. Remember, not every battle needs your participation. Some battles are better fought through dua. Some situations are better handled with silence. And some people are best left to Allah. When you let go and trust Him, you are not losing control. You are giving control to the one who controls everything. So the next time you are hurt, pause before you react. Take a deep breath. Remind yourself, Allah sees, Allah knows, and Allah will handle it. Choose silence not because you are weak, but because you are strong enough to trust your Lord. And when Allah takes over, He does it in ways that leave everyone amazed. There are moments in life when anger rises within you like a storm, when your heart beats faster and your mind begins to prepare words you cannot take back. Someone says something hurtful, someone accuses you unfairly, or someone crosses a line that should never have been crossed. In that instance, your natural reaction is to respond, to defend yourself, to speak loudly enough so that your voice is heard. But this is exactly where silence becomes your greatest strength. Not every situation requires a response. Not every accusation deserves your words. Sometimes your silence speaks louder than anything you could ever say. It reflects control, dignity, and a deep awareness that reacting in anger often leads to regret. How many times have people spoken in the heat of the moment only to wish they could take their words back? Once something leaves your tongue, it cannot be undone. That is why choosing silence in moments of anger is not a loss. It is a protection. When you remain silent, you are not suppressing your emotions in a harmful way. You are managing them. You are choosing to rise above the situation instead of being dragged down by it. Anger can cloud judgment, distort truth, and push a person to say things that damage relationships, reputations, and even their own peace of mind. But when you pause and hold your tongue, you give yourself the chance to think clearly, to act wisely, and to respond in a way that aligns with your values rather than your impulses. There is a special kind of strength in walking away from conflict. It takes courage to step back when everything inside you wants to step forward and fight. It takes discipline to remain quiet when you have the perfect response ready on your lips. But that discipline is what sets apart those who are controlled by their emotions from those who have control over them. Silence also protects your heart. When you engage in arguments fueled by anger, your heart becomes heavier. You replay the conversation again and again, thinking about what you said and what you should have said. It drains you emotionally and mentally. But when you choose silence, you cut off that cycle. You preserve your inner peace. You refuse to allow someone else's negativity to take control of your state of mind. Moreover, silence in moments of anger creates space for wisdom. It allows you to reflect instead of react. It gives you the opportunity to consider the consequences of your words before they are spoken. And often, with a little time, what seemed like a huge issue in the moment begins to feel smaller. You realize that not everything is worth your energy, not everything is worth your attention, and certainly not everything is worth your attention, and certainly not everything is worth disturbing your peace. People may misunderstand your silence. They may think you have nothing to say, or that you are weak, or that you have accepted their wrongdoing. But the reality is far from that. Your silence is a choice. It is a sign that you value your character more than winning an argument. It is a sign that you are strong enough to control yourself, even when others cannot control themselves. In the end, silence during anger is not about losing your voice. It is about using it wisely. It is about knowing when to speak and when to remain quiet. And in many cases, choosing silence in the heat of the moment can save you from a lifetime of regret. There will be times in your life when you are treated unfairly, when words are spoken about you that are not true, when your intentions are questioned and your character is attacked. It hurts deeply, especially when it comes from people you trusted or never expected harm from. In those moments, your heart seeks justice. You want to explain yourself to clear your name, to make sure the truth is known. But sometimes, instead of rushing to defend yourself, the most powerful step you can take is to trust that Allah's justice is perfect and complete. Allah sees what people hide. He hears what is whispered behind closed doors. He knows the intentions that lie deep within your heart, even when no one else understands you. When you are wronged, it may feel like the world has turned against you, but you are never alone. The one who created justice itself is fully aware of your situation. Nothing escapes his knowledge, not even the smallest zulm done to you. Trusting Allah's justice does not mean denying the pain you feel. It does not mean pretending that what happened did not hurt. It simply means that instead of letting that pain turn into anger, revenge, or bitterness, you place your trust in the one who never fails to deliver what is right. You remind yourself that human judgment is limit, but Allah's judgment is absolute. Sometimes we become so focused on proving ourselves to people that we forget who truly matters. We exhaust ourselves trying to correct every misunderstanding, respond to every accusation, and defend against every criticism. But the reality is, you will never be able to control what people say or think about you. No matter how much you explain, some hearts will remain closed and some minds will remain made up. That is why there is peace in letting go and trusting Allah to take care of what you cannot. When you leave your matter to Allah, you are not being passive. You are choosing a higher form of action. You are saying, "Oh Allah, you know the truth better than anyone. You see what I cannot see, and you will handle this in the best way." That level of trust brings a calmness to the heart that no argument can provide. It frees you from the burden of constantly defending yourself and allows you to focus on what truly matters, your relationship with your Creator. Allah's justice does not always come immediately, and that is where patience is tested. You may wonder why things are not being resolved quickly, why those who wronged you seem to be moving on without consequences. But delay does not mean denial. Allah's timing is perfect, even when it does not align with your expectations. Sometimes He delays justice to give people a chance to change. Sometimes He delays it to test your patience. And sometimes He saves the ultimate justice for a day when nothing will be overlooked. There is also a hidden blessing in being wronged. It purifies you. It elevates your rank. Every moment of patience, every tear you hold back, every time you choose not to retaliate for the sake of Allah, it is all being recorded. You may lose in the eyes of people, but with Allah, you are gaining in ways you cannot even imagine. When you truly trust Allah's justice, you no longer feel the need to seek revenge. You no longer carry the heavy burden of resentment. Instead, you feel a sense of relief knowing that the matter is in the hands of the most just. And when Allah takes control, He resolves matters in ways that are far beyond what you could have done on your own. So when you are wronged, hold on to your faith. Remind yourself that Allah knows, Allah sees, and Allah will judge with absolute fairness. And that alone is enough to bring peace to your heart. Patience is one of the most powerful qualities a believer can possess. Yet it is also one of the most difficult to maintain. It is easy to speak about patience when life is going smoothly, when everything is going according to your plans, and when people around you are you well, but the true test of patience comes when things fall apart, when expectations are shattered, and when your heart feels heavy with disappointment, pain, or confusion. That is where patience transforms from a simple idea into a living reality. Patience is not just about waiting for something to happen. It is about how you behave while you are waiting. It is about maintaining your character when you are being tested. It is about holding yourself together when everything around you feels like it is falling apart. Anyone can remain calm when there is no pressure, but it takes real strength to stay composed when the pressure is intense. When you are hurt by others, patience becomes even more challenging. Words can cut deep, actions can leave scars, and betrayal can shake you to your core. In those moments, your emotions may push you toward anger, toward retaliation, towards saying or doing something that you might later regret. But patience calls you to pause. It reminds you that your reaction in that moment will define not only the situation, but also your own character. There is a deep connection between patience and faith. The stronger your faith, the more you are able to practice patience. This is because patience is rooted in trust that there is wisdom behind every test, even if you cannot see it immediately. When you believe that nothing happens without purpose, it becomes easier to endure hardship without losing hope. You begin to understand that every difficulty carries within it an opportunity for growth, purification, and elevation. Patience also protects you from making decisions that could harm you in the long run. When emotions are high, judgment is often clouded. People say things they do not mean, make choices they later regret, and damage relationships that could have been preserved. But when you practice patience, you give yourself time to think clearly. You allow your emotions to settle before taking any action, and in doing so, you protect yourself from unnecessary harm. It is important to remember that patience does not mean weakness or silence in the face of injustice. Rather, it is about responding in the right way, at the right time, for the right reasons. It is about controlling your anger instead of letting it control you. It is about choosing dignity over impulsiveness, wisdom over reaction, and faith over frustration. There are moments when patience feels unbearable, when the test seems too long, too heavy, or too unfair. In those moments, it is easy to feel like giving up, like you have reached your limit. But even in those moments, patience is not about having no emotions. It is about continuing to hold on despite those emotions. It is about turning to Allah, seeking strength, and reminding yourself that you are never being tested beyond what you can handle. Every act of patience is seen. Every moment you choose to hold back, to remain calm, to trust instead of panic, it is all being recorded. Nothing is lost. Even if the world does not recognize your struggle, Allah knows it completely. And He rewards patience in ways that are beyond human understanding. In the end, patience shapes you into a stronger, wiser, and more resilient person. It teaches you self-control, deepens your faith, and brings a sense of inner peace that cannot be achieved through any other means. And when you look back at your struggles, you begin to realize that it was patience that carried you through, step by step, until you reached a place of strength you never thought possible. One of the greatest sources of stress in life is not always the problems themselves, but the unnecessary arguments we allow ourselves to get pulled into. Not every conversation is worth your energy, and not every disagreement deserves your attention. Yet many people find themselves constantly engaging in debates, trying to prove a point, trying to correct others, or trying to win arguments that ultimately bring no real benefit. In doing so, they lose something far more valuable than the argument itself. They lose their peace. There is a difference between standing for truth and getting caught in endless disputes. Wisdom lies in knowing when to speak and when to walk away. Some people are not looking for understanding. They are looking for conflict. No matter how calmly you explain, no matter how clearly you present your point, they will continue to argue, twist words, and push you into frustration. Engaging with such people rarely leads to a positive outcome. Instead, it drains your energy and leaves you emotionally exhausted. Protecting your peace means recognizing that your time and energy are limited resources, that you cannot afford to spend them on every disagreement that comes your way. When you constantly engage in arguments, your mind remains occupied, your heart feels heavy, and your focus shifts away from what truly matters. Over time, this can affect your well-being, your relationships, and even your connection with Allah. There is strength in walking away from arguments that serve no purpose It does not mean you are wrong, and it does not mean you have nothing to say. It simply means you are choosing something greater, your inner peace, your dignity, and your emotional stability. Not every battle needs to be fought, and not every opinion needs to be challenged. Sometimes silence is not only the best response, it is the most powerful one. When you avoid unnecessary arguments, you also protect your character. In the heat of a debate, people often say things they later regret. Words become sharper, tones become harsher, and respect begins to fade. What may have started as a simple disagreement can quickly turn into something damaging. But when you choose not to engage, you prevent that escalation. You maintain your composure, your respect, and your integrity. It is also important to understand that you cannot change everyone. No matter how much effort you put into explaining something, some people will hold on to their views simply because they are not willing to listen. Accepting this reality brings a sense of relief. You no longer feel the need to convince everyone or to correct every misunderstanding. Instead, you focus on what you can control: your own actions, your own words, and your own reactions. Avoiding unnecessary arguments does not mean isolating yourself or avoiding communication altogether. It means being selective. It means engaging in discussions that are meaningful, respectful, and beneficial, while stepping away from those that are toxic, repetitive, or driven by ego. This balance allows you to maintain healthy interactions without sacrificing your peace of mind. There is also a spiritual dimension to this. When you protect your peace, you create space in your heart for remembrance, reflection, and connection with Allah. A heart that is constantly disturbed by conflict struggles to find tranquility. But a heart that is guarded from unnecessary negativity is more open to calmness, clarity, and faith. In the end, avoiding unnecessary arguments is not about silence for the sake of silence. It is about choosing wisely where to invest your voice. It is about recognizing that peace is a blessing that should not be traded for temporary victories in meaningless debates. And when you begin to prioritize your peace, you will notice a shift, not only in your surroundings, but within yourself as well. There are moments when dhulm is done so quietly that no one else seems to notice. Words are spoken behind your back, intentions are questioned, and actions are taken in a way that leaves you hurt, yet outwardly everything appears normal. You may feel alone in those moments, as if no one truly understands what you are going through. But what brings comfort to the believer is the certainty that nothing is hidden from Allah. He knows what is concealed within the hearts, and He sees every detail, even those that go unnoticed by the world. Human beings can only judge based on what is visible. They hear one side of the story, they see a limited picture, and they form opinions based on incomplete information. This is why people can misunderstand you, misjudge you, or even wrong you without realizing the full truth. But Allah's knowledge is perfect and complete. He does not need explanations, evidence, or witnesses. He knows the reality of every situation exactly as it is. When someone hurts you, they may try to justify their actions. They may twist the truth, present themselves as innocent, or shift the blame onto you. To others, it may seem convincing. You might even begin to feel frustrated, wondering why the truth is not clear to everyone. But in that moment, remind yourself that the most important judgment is not the judgment of people. It is the judgment of Allah. And His knowledge encompasses everything that is hidden and everything that is hidden and everything that is apparent. There is something deeply reassuring about knowing that Allah is aware of what is in your heart. He knows your intentions, your sincerity, and the struggles you face within. Even when you remain silent, even when you choose not to defend yourself, Allah knows why you made that choice. He knows the patience you are trying to maintain, the pain you are trying to control, and the faith you are holding on to despite the difficulty. Nothing of that is lost. Sometimes the greatest wisdom is not what is done openly, but what is done subtly, through whispers, through assumptions, through quiet exclusion or hidden hostility. These are the kinds of things that are difficult to prove and even harder to address. But they are never beyond the awareness of Allah. Every word spoken, every intention formed, every action taken, it is all known to Him in its entirety. This understanding changes the way you respond to dhalam. Instead of feeling the need to expose everything or to prove every wrong, you find a sense of calm in knowing that Allah is fully aware. You are no longer desperate for people to see your truth because you know that the one who truly matters already does. This does not mean you ignore injustice, but it means you are not consumed by the need for validation from others. It also serves as a reminder for ourselves. Just as Allah sees what others do to us, He also sees what we do to us. It encourages us to be mindful of our own actions, our own words, and even our own thoughts. Dhalam is not always obvious. Sometimes it can be as simple as judging someone unfairly, speaking without knowledge, or holding negative assumptions in the heart. Knowing that Allah is aware of even the hidden aspects of our behavior pushes us to be more conscious and more just in our dealings. When you truly believe that Allah sees all zalam, it brings a sense of balance to your heart. You are neither overwhelmed by what people do nor careless about your own actions. You carry yourself with dignity, knowing that accountability does not depend on human recognition. Everything will be brought to light at the right time in the right way. In the end, this belief becomes a source of strength. It reminds you that you are never alone in your struggle, never unseen in your pain, and never forgotten in your patience. Allah's awareness is constant, complete, and perfectly just. And that alone is enough to give peace to a heart that has been wronged. There is something deeply embedded in human nature that pushes a person toward revenge when they are hurt. When someone wrongs you, disrespects you, or causes you pain, your instinct often tells you to respond, to give them a taste of what they gave you, to make sure they feel the same hurt you felt. It may seem justified, it may even feel satisfying for a moment, but the reality is that revenge rarely brings the peace people expect. Instead, it often prolongs the pain and keeps the heart trapped in a cycle of negativity. Choosing to leave matters to Allah instead of seeking revenge is not an easy decision. It goes against the immediate reaction of the ego. It requires you to step back, to control your emotions, and to trust that justice does not depend on your personal response. This choice is not a sign of weakness, it is a reflection of deep faith and inner strength. When you hold on to the desire for revenge, it occupies your thoughts. You begin to replay the situation over and over, thinking about what you could do, what you should say, how you can respond. It becomes a burden on your heart, affecting your peace, your focus, and even your happiness. But when you let go and leave it to Allah, you free yourself from that burden. You are no longer tied to the actions of the person who hurt you. You are no longer carrying the zalim within you. There's also a hidden danger in revenge. When you try to repay harm with harm, you risk crossing boundaries. What started as a response can turn into something excessive, something unjust. In trying to correct a wrong, you may end up committing another wrong. This is how cycles of conflict continue, growing bigger and more destructive over time. But when you choose to step away and leave the matter to Allah, you break that cycle completely. Allah's justice is not limited like human justice. When people seek revenge, they can only act based on what they know and what they are capable of. But Allah knows every detail, every intention, every hidden aspect of the situation. His response is perfectly measured, perfectly timed, and completely fair. When you trust in that, you realize that there is no need to take matters into your own hands. There is also a special reward in choosing restraint over retaliation. Every time you hold back for the sake of Allah, every time you resist the urge to respond in anger, you are elevating yourself spiritually. You are proving that your actions are not controlled by your emotions, but guided by your faith. This level of control is not easy to achieve, but it brings a sense of strength and dignity that revenge can never provide. Letting go does not mean that what happened was acceptable. It does not mean you're ignoring injustice or allowing others to walk over you. It simply means you are choosing a higher path. You are choosing to rise above the situation instead of lowering yourself to it. You are placing your trust in Allah's wisdom rather than relying on your own limited understanding. Over time, this choice transforms your heart. Instead of being filled with anger and resentment, it begins to fill with peace and clarity. You start to realize that not every action requires a reaction, and not every hurt needs to be returned. Some things are better left in the hands of the one who never makes mistakes. And when Allah takes over, the outcome is always greater than anything you could have achieved on your own. Sometimes He resolves the matter in ways that you never expected. Sometimes He replaces your loss with something better. And sometimes He grants you a peace that makes you realize that what you let go of was never worth holding onto in the first place. In the end, the reward of leaving matters to Allah is not just about justice. It is about freedom. Freedom from anger, from bitterness, and from the constant need to respond. It is about trusting that the one who sees all will take care of all in the most perfect way possible. In the end, life will always present moments that test your patience, your emotions, and your character. People may hurt you, misunderstand you, or treat you in ways you never deserved. You will feel the urge to respond, to defend, to react. But true strength lies in choosing a different path, the path of silence, patience, and complete trust in Allah. When you hold your tongue in anger, you protect your dignity. When you avoid unnecessary arguments, you protect your peace. When you remain patient in hardship, you strengthen your faith. And when you leave matters to Allah instead of seeking revenge, you free your heart from burdens it was never meant to carry. Every one of these choices may feel difficult in the moment, but they carry a reward far greater than any temporary satisfaction this world can offer. Remember, Allah sees what others do not see. He knows what is hidden. He understands your pain. And He never forgets even the smallest dhulm done to you. You may feel unheard by people, but you are never unheard by Allah. You may feel alone, but you are never alone. And you may feel like justice is delayed, but with Allah, justice is always precise and perfectly timed. So choose silence when anger rises. Choose patience when the test becomes heavy. Choose to walk away when arguments bring no benefit. And most importantly, choose to trust Allah in every situation, even when it is difficult to understand. Because when you truly let go and leave your matters to Him, you will find a peace that no response, no argument, and no revenge could ever give you. And know this with certainty: when Allah handles your affairs, they are handled in the best way possible.